What is up everyone, Hero276 here, and welcome to today's video and welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be checking out SEISMITOAD in the Great League. SEISMITOAD is a MUD-BOI, meaning it has that ground and water typing shared with Swampert and Whiscash, but the moveset's a little bit different. It's got access to Mud Shot, Sludge Bomb, and Earth Power. Now for the team, I paired it up with a Skarmory on the lead and a Whiscash, so it forms sort of an ABB style team, as you know, my favorite format of team. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. The team was fairly successful, and I'm going to show you a 4-in-1 set as well as 3 bonus battles. But before we dive into that, I'm just going to give a special shout out to my Spotify page. If you're enjoying the music used in this video and other videos, please consider checking out my Spotify page, link in the description. You can follow me on the page or support the channel by buying my albums for just $4.99. So if that's something that interests you, I definitely suggest checking out the Spotify page, like I said, link in the description. But without further ado, let's get right into the battles.
Alright, now let's dive right into it. Picking up a lead, Skarmory into Obstagoon. Not a great lead. What I'm going to look to do is stay in here for just a little bit. What I'm going to look to do is let their first charged attack go through, build up to the Brave Bird, and full send it, hoping to snipe with one of my 2 MUD-BOIs. Gonna go for the Brave Bird. I'm really hoping this connects. The opponent lets it go through. I send in Whiscash, and I successfully get the Mudshot snipe. Opponent sends in Ferrothorn, and I'm very okay with this. I had to lure out the Ferrothorn, as it would absolutely tear apart my backline, so I'm very much okay with letting the Whiscash go down here. And the good news is, thanks to the 2 Mudshot head start, I'm actually able to connect with a couple of Mud Bombs and even force a shield from my opponent. So this is all I could hope for and more. Opponent is going to connect with the Power Whip. That will KO, but from here I can send in the Skarmory, and I wasn't sure if this is enough for a Thunder, so you're going to actually see me shield here. Turns out just the Power Whip, no need to shield there. Opponent sends in their final Pokemon. It's a Lowland Marowak, and I send in the SEISMITOAD. SEISMITOAD goes for the Earth Power, but they do sneak in a Fire Spin. Gonna go for the Earth Power. They do shield it up, and we see the defense fall. My opponent's gonna go for a charged attack now. They go for the Shadow Bone. They get the defense fall. And from here, I kind of have to shield because unfortunately, I am getting rather low. And I'm gonna go for the Earth Power after over farming. SEISMITOAD will one-shot here with the Earth Power. The Ferrothorn will come back in here and Bullet Seed farm down, but I could send in the Skarmory, and we have the Brave Bird ready to go. Brave Bird is gonna KO the Ferrothorn, and we take the win. Hopping into game number 2, picking up a lead, Skarmory into Drifblim. Not a great lead for us whatsoever, so I'm gonna look to stay in here. And hopefully they're running Icy Wind and not Mystical Fire. I do call it, but it is the Mystical Fire. I decide to bank all of this energy and then send in the Whiscash. My opponent actually pivots out, but they have a Shadow Victreebel, and this is not great. I'm going to go for the Scald. Scald is going to get shielded and get the attack debuff. And from here, I'm just going to wait my switch clock here. I'm going to send in the Skarmory after all that's said and done. In comes the Skarmory. I'm going to go for the Sky Attack. Sky Attack will absolutely KO from this range. It's a Shadow Victreebel. They don't survive it. My opponent is going to send in their final Pokemon, and it's Carbink. Now, these Steel Wings are double super effective, but unfortunately, I will not be able to store a charge move, and I have to throw my energy to get the switch clock back up. Back in comes the Drifblim, and unfortunately, I'm just hard countered here. My energy is completely walled by this Drifblim. Sludge Bomb's going to be resistant, and on top of that, they did also land an Icy Wind debuff. I do no shield it, and now I have to start shielding as this SEISMITOAD is getting fairly low. SEISMITOAD shields up the Icy Wind. I'm going to have to go for a Sludge Bomb here, but as you're going to see, it's not going to do enough damage to KO. Sludge Bomb gets the Drifblim very low, but Mudshots are double resisted and now triple debuffed. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to farm down here. I try to catch onto Skarmory. I am unsuccessful. Carbink has the Rock Slide stored. Rock Slide, however, not enough to KO, so maybe there's hope. This Earth Power has to KO, and I have to Mudshot down the Drifblim, but I'm unable to do so, and I lose a very close game. Hopping into the next one, picking up an interesting lead into Victini. Now, Victini, all of its quick moves are resisted by the Skarmory, both the quick attack and the confusion, so I can actually stay in here for a little bit. What I'm going to look to do is go for the Sky Attack, wait till they get to the back-to-back V-Creates, and switch and catch the V-Create onto Whiscash, where it will be resisted. So I bank energy on Skarmory, don't take too much damage in the process, and waste their energy. My opponent sends in Victreebel. They do get a nice Razor Leaf farm down, but that energy is going to be useless up against my Skarmory. Back in comes the Skarmory. I do decide to go for the Sky Attack after a little bit of overfarm, and I play to a CMP tie that I end up losing. My opponent goes for the Leaf Tornado. They do get the attack debuff, but what I'm going to look to do is go for an Undercharge here, and this Undercharge will allow me to get in the perfect Steel Wing farm down, and I leave fairly healthy, unable to be farmed down, and with a ton of energy. I immediately pivot into Seismitoad. They have a Azumarill in the back, and this is where the coverage of Sludge Bomb is very handy. Sludge Bomb, gonna do half of Azumarill's health, and what I'm gonna look to do here is shield up the Seismitoad, because I want this Azu out of here. I need shields down if I'm going to want my energy on Skarmory to be anywhere effective, so I'm going to go for a Sludge Bomb here. Azumarill is going to give up their first shield, and I'm going to give up my second shield in response. So Azumarill looking to get both of my shields, able to do so, but I outpace to the Sludge Bomb and they have no shields left. Azumarill is going to get taken out, but back in comes the Victini. Victini has to expend energy here to take me out, as I will not be able to get farmed down. V-Create KOs, but I have the Brave Bird ready to go, and Brave Bird is going to one-shot the Victini, and we take the win. Hopping into the next game, picking up a lead into Lapras. Now, Lapras is a Pokemon I have not seen in the Great League for quite some time, and that's just simply because Dugong is much better, it has better coverage, and both Pokemon have similar levels of bulk. Lapras is going to connect here with the Surf. What I'm going to look to do is go for the Brave Bird. Brave Bird will do a lot of damage onto the Lapras. Lapras is able to hang on, but I'm able to come in with the Whiscash. Whiscash can absorb a Surf from this health range. I do not get the Snipe though, and I do leave with a bit of a dent in my health, but that's okay. My opponent sends in Annihilate. Annihilate, not going to like the Scald. Scald is going to land. We do not see the attack debuff, however. But that should not matter, as we're not in Ice Punch or Night Slash range. Opponent goes for the Ice Punch, but it does not KO. I'm able to get off the Mud Bomb. Annihilate is going to let it go through. My opponent has a Trevenant in the back, and this is actually a little bit scary. What I'm going to look to do is send in the Seismitoad, because from here they can just go straight Seed Bomb. So what I'm going to look to do is wait till they get to their next Seed Bomb. I'm going to plan a catch onto my Skarmory. I'm going to throw my Sludge Bomb, giving them the impression that I fully intend on staying in, even though that's not what I'm going to do. They're one off, I switch, and I get the catch. Seed Bomb is double resisted, I can no-shield it, it's not doing a lot of damage, and from here, my opponent surrenders, and that is game, set, and match. We saw a Victini lead a couple of games ago, and now we're seeing a Jirachi lead. So one mythical after another, both of them confusion users. I decide to stay in, my opponent pivots into Talonflame, and I'm very glad they did this, as now I can send in Whiscash. They did build up to the Brave Bird, so you'd never know. I shielded up, and it's the Flame Charge, so very unfortunate for me. I could have withstood that damage. My opponent ends up shielding my Scald, and they're making a play for Switch. So at this point, what I'm going to look to do is make a very risky Mud Bomb bait after double shielding my Whiscash. So I'm going to look to do is go for the Mud Bomb. I need to shield here from my opponent. Opponent ends up shielding the Mud Bomb, and that's going to enable me to outpace by one turn to the Scald. Scald will KO the Talonflame, and we have switch advantage, and we leave moderately healthy. My opponent has a Magical Leaf Decidueye, and this is really good for my Skarmory. I send in the Skarmory, going for the Brave Bird. Brave Bird is going to one-shot, and from here, I can send in the Seismitoad. My opponent surrenders, and that is game, set, and match. So as you can see, we're just going to collect our set rewards before getting into the bonus battles. I did go 4-1 in that set. Let's quick catch the Phantump and move on to the bonus battles. Alright, hopping into game number 1, picking up a great lead into Toxicroak. What I'm going to look to do is pivot into one of my two MUD-BOIs to hopefully lure out any potential counters. My opponent is staying in, however, which means they probably don't have a good response to a MUD-BOI somewhere in the back. They're staying in, and they're also shielding up the Mud Bomb. From here, whatever they shield, I'm shielding in return, so I will also shield up the Mud Bomb. and I'm going to be able to reach my own Mud Bomb and outpace the Toxicroak. Going to go for the Mud Bomb here. Mud Bomb's going to grab their second shield, and they're going to connect with another Mud Bomb, but I'm going to shield that up as well. Opponent sends the Mud Bomb, I shield it. I'm going to overfarm by 1 and then go for the next Mud Bomb, and this will take out the Toxicroak, and that will win me switch advantage. The opponent sends in Altaria, and I'm going to be able to connect here with the Scald. Even though it is resisted, it does have a debuff chance. Scald does get the attack fall, which is very nice, and now I can send in Skarmory, and Skarmory effectively walls any energy here from the Altaria, and especially now that we have that debuff applied. Sky Attack does absolutely nothing. I'm going to overfarm a little bit and then go for the Sky Attack. This should not KO, but it will allow for a Steel Wing farm down. The opponent is going to make it to one final move before I do get the farm down, but Skarmory here can survive it. It's a Dragon Pulse. It does not do a lot of damage. The opponent has Beedrill in the back, and this Brave Bird is going to one-shot, so SEISMITOAD gets the day off, and we take the win. Skarmory into Scizor in the next match. I do stay in to check the fast move, and since it's Fury Cutter, I'm actually going to stay in here. Fury Cutter's double resisted. Opponent also goes for X Scissor, which is also double resisted. You definitely want Bullet Punch and Night Slash if at all possible. Gonna go for the Sky Attack. That's going to get this thing very low, and Scizor is going to be able to make it to one final charged attack. X Scissor double resisted does not do a lot of damage. They send in Cresselia. I immediately pivot into Whiscash, and you might think this is a bad idea, but what I'm actually looking to do is lure out any potential grass type Pokemon that the Skarmory can just take care of in the back. So I send in the Whiscash. Opponent actually shields up my Scald, and there's an attack debuff, meaning I could comfortably survive the Grass Knot. Grass Knot will get me low, but they're not able to Psycho Cut farm down before I make it to another Scald on the CMP tie that I do win. Scald coming through is going to connect, and my opponent does get another attack debuff. So from here, I'm perfectly comfortable letting the Whiscash go down. I'm going to send in the Skarmory basically to absorb all of the energy. Nothing that my opponent throws here can hit for super effective damage, which is why I'm coming in here with the Skarmory. My opponent shields up the Brave Bird, and even though we are triple debuffed, my opponent is double debuffed, meaning the Grass Knot's still not enough to threaten. Their final Pokemon is Jellicent. I'm going to go for another Brave Bird here. Brave Bird is able to connect, and now I can send in SEISMITOAD. SEISMITOAD can tank any one move from this health range. Surf, not going to do a ton of damage, and from here I'm going to overfarm and go for the Sludge Bomb. Even though it is resisted, it's still enough to take out Jellicent from this health range. Back in comes the Cresselia, but my opponent surrenders, and that is game, set, and match. Hopping into game number 3, picking up a lead up against Azumarill. Now this is actually okay for us. I'd rather this here than onto my Whiscash, so I'll stay in. Opponent is going to overfarm, and this is not enough here for the Hydro Pump. They only overfarm by 1. They go for the Play Rough, and that cues me into the fact that potentially they're running Play Rough and Hydro Pump, but they don't build up to the Hydro Pump, so it's a very safe no shield. We both pivot at the same time. I pivot into Whiscash, they pivot into Skeledirge, and this is lockdown for Whiscash. We're able to connect with the Scald, one-shotting the Skeledirge. My opponent surrenders, and that is game, set, and match. So whatever they had in the back definitely did not want to see a MUD-BOI. All in all, I had a lot of fun with this team. While I think that SEISMITOAD is a fun spice pick, I definitely don't think it's as meta as, say, Whiscash or even Quagsire, just because it doesn't really have a defined bait move, and it's rather classy. Though it was super fun to use. And at any rate, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.